All right, hello, and welcome to another live conversation. Your listeners, subscriber, back, welcome back, and welcome. This is education is the safe space. We do not respectful way to ensure that we're maintaining where you feel a sense of belonging and where all right, so it's expected anyone, so we don't mind, all right? So we try to realize respectful, unique, so we have different views, perspectives.
Please remember to hit the like button, the share button, and the subscription button as we continue to grow stronger together.
So, welcome one. Well, this conversation is living about two main items. The wholeness, all right, brings the integrity or part of the body to court and why. So, so I just so holistic. And so I have gone integrity commission report. So to the last slide here. All right, 5 minutes. And is accompanied by of the decision of integrity commission in that is pretty
All
much
right, so
what I'm
that
going to
that is
talk about.
pretty much what we're going to
All
talk
right,
about
so
at this point. So again, welcome one, welcome all. If you're just tuning in, and please let me know if you're hearing me loud and clear in the chat there. All right, that would be fantastic. Just let me know if you're hearing me well in the chat. All right, so I'm just going to get to some updates in that regard for you in the context of what is happening. And in a little bit too, I am going to share some information regarding the opposition leaving the parliament. All right. So again, welcome, welcome one, welcome all. So I'm just going to get to that information for you here in the context of this report. I was trying to get a copy of the statement of claim that was filed, but still just not yet successful with that. So we're just going to go with what is available. And again, to just getting some updates to that ISAT Buchanan all right, is confirmed as the representative for East Portland in the upcoming general election. So that's for the PNP for sure. All right, so we'll get to that in a little bit. But I just want to go to the report here in the context of the Prime Minister and some of the claims, all right, that is filing. So according to the Jamaica Gleaner, the Prime Minister has applied to the Supreme Court to have an Integrity Commission investigation report into his financial affairs rejected as, in quotation here, unlawful, unfair, close quotation, and premised on an unconstitutional, in quotation, law. All right, so let us see if we can just get to some of the highlights from that statement of claim. And again, let me know if you're hearing me loud and clear in the chat. And this is a quotation here. I believe that the tabling of the report was intended to embarrass and cause harm to me, and as such was made for an improper purpose and in bad faith to prejudice and harm me, he said, adding that it sought to impute criminal and unethical conduct to me and the other applicants. And the Gleaner continues, Holness's application for permission to seek judicial review of actions of the Anti-Corruption Agency was filed on September 30th. So that was just Monday, right? The report was released by the House of Representatives. So this is the IC report on September 17th. He is seeking 21 orders or declarations on 69 grounds. All right, and so in the context of a judicial review, it allows the court to scrutinize processes used by public authority or authorities to make certain decisions. All right, so in this matter, the applicants are Prime Minister Andrew Holness, is company Imperium Investments Holding Limited, and two other connected entities, Positive Media Solutions Limited and Positive Jamaica Foundation Limited, a charity. And so we would have recognized these names by now, given the Integrity Commission's, the IC's report. All right, so the respondents, so he is bringing this claim against the following persons: two senior executives of the commission, so Director of Information and Complaints, Craig Beresford, and he's the first respondent. The Director of Investigations, Kevin Stevenson, second respondent, and the commission itself, third respondent. And this makes sense, right? Because when you think about the commissioners themselves, here he listed Beresford. All right, so Craig Beresford as the first responded Director of Information and also the Director of Investigations. While these were the persons apparently who were predominantly involved in the process, this claim could not just be brought against them, right? Because they're working for the Integrity Commission. So in essence, right, the Integrity Commission is really vicariously responsible for the work, or in law, the tort or wrongdoings, so to speak, of their employees. So I see this as fitting in terms of, okay, these are the persons here plus the commission. All right, so that is definitely important. And he could not just do it to these two specific people without also attaching it to the commission. So I can understand that part. All right, so the article continues by sharing the probe started with the 2021 income filings, but Stevenson said he flagged an unexplained growth of 1.9 million in Holness's declared assets for 2022. Additionally, deposits and withdrawal transactions of 473 million and 427 million involving the named companies raised questions. Issues around tax compliance and charity funds were also noted. Stevenson could not conclude the investigation, citing Holness's refusal to provide a breakdown of his expenses for 2019 to 2022. The commission said it could not certify the 2021 filing and referred the matter to the FID, so that's the Financial Investigations Division, Jamaica's main, agency for financial crimes. But Holness contended in the court documents that those conclusions are flawed. So he's pretty much saying nothing to gossip. All right, he also argued that the probe into his filings for 2019 to 2022 was premised on what he believes is an unconstitutional provision of the Corruption Prevention Act, which outlines that a person who fails to satisfactorily explain their wealth relative to their earnings commits the offense of illicit enrichment. He asserted that the provision undermines persons' constitutional entitlement to the presumption of innocence and should be struck down. So what I am gathering so far is that the Prime Minister is not just going after the reporting itself, but also the legal framework, the law itself, in terms of what the law requires, all right, in the context of the Integrity Commission. Regarding the illicit enrichment provision of the CPA, Holness said his lawyers have advised him that the selection places a burden on him to prove an essential element of the offense of illicit enrichment. That is the wealth element. So what I'm getting from this is that what Holness is saying is that he has to be the one to prove, as opposed to them, trying to say, okay, doing their job and getting the work done. So the burden of proof is on him, as opposed to the Integrity Commission or the investigator. But he said, Tom, that I was required to explain, but failed to disclose it to me so that I could adequately respond or cause. Meanwhile, Holness said the IC's, the Integrity Commission's Director of Investigations, and again, this is from the same article, collected evidence, analyzed it, made findings of fact, all while combining the roles of investigator, prosecutor, and judge. And, for me, this is a significant point, because if it's like too much power is invested in one person or vested in one person. So in essence, what they're saying here from this claim is that one person is investigating, one person is prosecuting, one person is coming to this final conclusion. There must be some separation in the context of due process. And so if you look at our own system, guys, you have the police, right? They'll do the investigations. But when it comes on to if you're guilty or innocent, they're not the ones making that determination. All right, it goes to the court, it goes to the judge. All right, so you have that process in place. So what I gather here that the Prime Minister is saying is that one person cannot, in their words here, be investigator, prosecutor, and judge. And that is clear if that is the situation. Based on what I've read, that they have done, this person is doing the investigation. This person is also making certain findings. So that is definitely important. And this has nothing to do with the Prime Minister, but it has something to do with due process. Due process you can't have power, so much power invested in one person, where you are collecting the evidence, you are doing the investigation, you cannot be making the final conclusion. So you need to collect whatever you need to collect and pass it on to somebody else for them to look at the evidence and based on what is presented to make that conclusion. So I guess that is something for the judge to decide, and we'll hear more about that. So Holness also has a problem with the extent of information disclosed in the 171-page investigation report, claiming that the contents of the report disclosed personal and private information of the applicants in breach of privacy and the data protection laws of Jamaica. That's another issue there. All right, it was more than is necessary to make the report to Parliament. I was asked questions in a vacuum, and I was only provided with the documents in appendix, he said in a 37-page affidavit to support his court application. The Prime Minister rejected the IC's assertion that he refused to provide details of his expenses, contending that there was no request for any income and expense statements for 2019 and 2020. The objections that I put forward were dismissed without a hearing. This was improper given the substantial nature of the objections that in some cases went to the respondent's jurisdiction. In addition, I have a right to privacy, Holness said, charging that his objections were ignored. He alleged that it was unlawful and unfair for Stevenson and the Commission to extend the investigation from the 2021 declarations to include the filings for 2019, 2020, 2022, and 2023. Among the orders being sought are for the Commission to be compelled to examine the outstanding filings and that Holness be exonerated in relation to the findings for 2021 and 2022. The Prime Minister is also urging the court to declare that referral of the report and findings to the FID, so that's the Financial Investigation Division, and Tax Administration Jamaica, so that's TAJ, represents an unlawful delegation and or abdication of the second and third respondents and or the Director of Corruption Prosecution statutory responsibility. But here we were told that they signed an MOU where the body, well, the FID and the Integrity Commission could cooperate. But, you know, the big question that I have in all of this, right? The Director of Investigation shared that he was not able to, I guess, fully conclude or certify the Prime Minister's statutory declaration, right? Because further investigations were necessary. My big question is, if you're going to continue the investigation because they have sent this on to the FID, why did you send this report to the Parliament to be tabled? That's my question though, because that is telling me that something is just off. Why didn't the Commission, right, wait until they have gotten some feedback in terms of whatever it is that they want to find out from the FID, for example, before sending that report to Parliament? Because you're sending a report to Parliament and pretty much it's from their perspective and what I've seen so far from the executive summary, it is inconclusive. They have not, you know, made a decision in that context. So I am wondering, why would you send a report that is incomplete to the Parliament for it to be tabled? And, you know, before that was done, persons were able to share, you know, what was in that report, right? So if it is that as the Integrity Commission, your work or a part of it is to do the investigation. And if there's need for any prosecution, then I guess the director will make that ruling. But why is it then that if you're of the view that you did not get enough information in terms of the prime minister's, for example, expenses to make certain declarations in a very confident way, and you at this point in the context of the director of investigations, you're now saying, you know what, we need to find out something more. Why would you send this income? Because the report from all indication is suggestive. All right, it's not conclusive. And so it's generally, I'll say most of the time, based on what I've read so far, just suggesting. So for example, I can just from the top of my head now, I can recall they were saying that, where is he? In the, I guess in the office of the prime minister, they were talking about, you know, a conflict of interest or the possibility of, right? And saying that this person, I think, is in the UDC and housing administration or agency of Jamaica, and also a part of one of the companies, but yet still they're saying there's no evidence to suggest, but still they want, you know, I guess the parliament to look in that. Nothing is wrong, because I always talk about conflict of interest, but I'm saying there are some things that are just there, very suggestive and inconclusive. And if you need to do further research or further investigations, do your work. Why send an incomplete report that you cannot say, okay, the prime minister is, I guess, guilty or liable for illicit enrichment, or you're going to say, okay, the prime minister is not liable for illicit enrichment. You need to let us know. So now Parliament and the public, we have a report that is pretty much incomplete. And then you have, I guess, passed on that to the FID, and I guess they communicated to the TAJ, but the TAJ said they could not, I guess, based on laws, they could not share whether or not they are, I guess, investigating someone in that sense. But why would you send a report that is incomplete? Because we want to know what is happening in that context. So why would you want to do that at this particular time? So just a question there, guys. And guys, please remember to hit the like button, comment in the chat, man. Roll call. Who is here? Hit the like button, hit the subscription button, and welcome if you're just tuning in. All right, so just to continue here, let me see where I stopped. The only report Holness said should be retained in one regarding the ruling of the Director of Corruption Prosecutions, who ruled out criminal charges for the failure to declare 4 bank accounts, an issue that arose from a separate probe. Holness also wants the court to order the IC to pay him damages for breach of privacy, including for stigma, negligent investigation. He also wants vindicatory and aggravated damages. So damages is pretty much money. So he's now seeking money for all of these things, what he's describing as breach of privacy, I guess stigma, the negligent, I guess, investigation, all of those things. He also wants the court to strike down provisions of the 2017 Integrity Commission Act, given the lack of fairness, impartiality, and independence in the exercise of the functions of the divisions and the commission as presently structured. So again, it's not just the people, but he's also asking the court to, I guess, review sections of the Integrity Commission Act given what has been played out. All right, so Holness is being represented by the law firm Enlin Gibson and Enlin Gibson Enlin. All right, and this is information from the Gleaner here. So again, you know, it is just sad that, you know, we're at this point, and I felt that some level of professionalism I would expect, because again, if it is that I am saying do your investigation, do your investigation. They got somebody from outside overseas that they employed for about, or engaged for about 6 months or so in the context of, I guess, the Prime Minister's assets. I would love to see that report. What was the findings of that what were the findings of that investigation, you know? Would love to get a sense of what happened in that report, because we heard about that, but there's nothing to say, all right, these, you know, were the recommendations from that particular investigation. So there was one investigation there, you know, and now they're sending it to the FID for further investigation. So would love to get a sense of, you know, why they would want to send that report to Parliament and the investigation is still not yet complete, because they have not certified his declaration, because they're saying it could be a possibility that he was, you know, enriched, or because he has some unexplained wealth, or it might not be that case. So why send a report, an incomplete report? Matt Morgan, welcome. Thanks for liking. Guys, welcome, welcome. Please remember to hit the like button, share button, and of course, the subscription button as we continue to grow stronger together. All right, so I'm just going to see, because earlier I actually saw some of the points. So I'm just going to see if that is anywhere up. I'm just checking where I found that. Welcome, guys. Now is the opportunity to, you know, just hit the like button, hit the subscription button. In a little bit, I'll be going to the opposition and their walkout of Parliament. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about that too. So we're here. Would love to hear your views too, so don't be afraid to comment in the chat. All right, so welcome one, welcome all. Voices in Education is a safe space where we share and learn from each other. We do that in a respectful way to ensure that we're maintaining our safe community, our safe space, so we don't belittle anyone. We don't, you know, disrespect anyone. We don't defame anyone. And it's okay if we disagree. All right, we agree to disagree, but we do it respectfully. So if I come here and I see you, I can still heal you up, you know, and understand that I share a different perspective, and that's totally okay. So that's the kind of place that, you know, we try to create and cultivate and maintain here. All right. So again, welcome, welcome. So roll call, guys. Now is the time. Comment in the chat. Let me know where you're tuned in from. And also let me know what are your views on the Prime Minister taking the Integrity Commission to court. Would love to hear from you in that regard. So share, don't be afraid to share in the chat. All right, so let me just see here. Let me see if this is where I got it. Perhaps over from Nationwide, maybe. All right, so let me just read the report that Nationwide has. Thanks for liking, KJ. Welcome one, welcome all. Happy to have you here. Don't be afraid to hit the like button and the subscription button. So let's go, subscribe and like, and you know, let's continue to grow here. So this is according to Nationwide. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has made damning claims against the Integrity Commission, Kevin Stevenson and Craig Beresford in his application for judicial review. And the law firm Enlin Gibson Enlin set down 69 grounds on which the Prime Minister moved to seek judicial review into the report of investigation into his statutory declarations. Point 50, according to Nationwide, is particularly damning. Holness's lawyers say the tabling of the report was done in bad faith to prejudice and harm him, given the entire scheme of the Integrity Commission Act is to ensure confidentiality and secure fairness for those who are being legitimately investigated. The big question about whether or not Holness knew he was being probed for illicit enrichment is also dealt with in the 69 grounds for action. At point 42, his lawyers say he was not given the background in relation to the alleged irregularities that were being investigated and was not told the proportion or sum by which his assets were disproportionate to his income. They say he therefore could not fairly and accurately respond to matters that concerned the subject matter of the investigation. So pretty much what the lawyer is saying, and I get from this point, is that they were pretty much, I guess they didn't want him to know that they were, probing or investigating him for illicit enrichment, because at no point they were told that, his assets were disproportionate to his income. So I guess the lawyer is saying, well, something the right I saw. And I guess you want him to respond, but how could he respond if, some secrets were being kept? So I don't know. Again, this is just what they filed, all right? So the respondents, they will get their opportunity to respond as well, all right, to the particular claim in that sense. Just give me a moment, guys. I just need to get some water here. And again, welcome if you're just tuning in. All right, so back to this particular article here. They say he therefore could not fairly and accurately respond to matters that concern the subject matter of the investigation. I felt I read this already. All right, so Holness's lawyers then deal with what they describe as the misuse of the Prime Minister's private information. So again, they're also challenging that aspect too, based on what the Integrity Commission has shared. They accuse the Integrity Commission of disclosing Holness's private information in a manner that is prejudicial to his rights and bringing him into public odium. All right, so public odium is defined as the hatred, disapproval, or dislike that the public feels for a person, usually due to something the person has done. The lawyers also raised the issue of a report from an international forensics expert who spent 6 months poring over the details of Holness's finances. They say Holness was entitled to see and respond to any adverse findings and benefit from any advantageous findings in that report. So again, I was just asking earlier, what happened with that investigation? Where is that report? So I'm not too sure what's the situation in that context. They say that Holness was not provided with a copy of the report. They accuse the Integrity Commission of broadening the scope of the investigation and setting a moving target for the Prime Minister to hit. Holness's lawyers say the investigation into his 2022 and 2023 statutory declarations was nothing more than a fishing expedition. All right, so that's pretty much in a nutshell there, the context of what is happening there with the Prime Minister. All right, in the context of him bringing a claim against the Integrity Commission and 2 others to the court in terms of a judicial review. All right, so again, welcome one, welcome all. If you're just tuning in, so happy to have you here. Please remember to hit the like button, the subscription button, share, tell a friend to tell another friend about the Voices in Education. Just looking in the chat here. The report should be made public. Which report? Are you talking about the report from the foreign investigator? If the correct procedures were not followed regarding the investigations, it is understandable why the PM would take them to court. All right, so I get your point there, Mats Morgan. Thanks for sharing in the chat. All right, and I guess we can say it's understandable. And the hardest thing too is if somebody is accusing you of something that is not necessarily the case. But again, let us allow the court to have its say in this one, right? It's before the court, so we can always share our views, but the court, they will definitely make their decision. All right, so the next context that I want to turn to at this point is regarding the opposition leader or the opposition. They walked out of parliament. So just give me a second here, guys. I'm just checking here on something. So just welcome, guys. If you're just tuning in, remember to hit the like button, the share button, the subscription button, tell a friend to tell another friend. But roll call. I want to see who is here in the chat. Let me know. KJ, Max Morgan, who else is here? Comment in the chat and, let me know if you're here. So let me just see if I can just go to the honorable opposition leader here, Mark Golding. All right, so we want to talk about the opposition walking out of parliament. So I'm just going to share with you some context here. And it was regarding a no confidence motion against the prime minister. All right, so just to let you know that. All right, and so it's pretty much a motion and I guess a corresponding vote. All right, in terms of saying, okay, we don't deem this person fit anymore to occupy the office. And so we are voting, we're asking for this. And my understanding is once that vote is successful, then an election is called. I guess they have to dissolve parliament, the governor general, and then an election is called. All right. So just to give you a little idea of what that is in that context. So apparently, all right, and we're going to try and listen to different sides of the story. So apparently the opposition, they staged a walkout, all right, following a ruling by the deputy speaker, all right, of the House, Eroy Clark, all right. And so what they were saying is that Clark blocked the opposition leader, Mark Golding, from tabling a motion against the prime minister concerning his statutory declarations. All right, so I guess the deputy speaker, he was citing a breach of the standing orders and ruled that the matter, I guess was ruled against the matter. All right, and he was sharing too that the matter was before the courts. So as a result, that caused some, noise there in parliament. The other part of it is that as parliament turned to the members' motions, the speaker, who is also the prime minister's wife, she removed herself, all right, from the chamber. And I guess given what was going to happen, so I guess that's how the deputy speaker then assumed or stepped into that position. All right, so he initially allowed the opposition leader, Mr. Golding, to introduce his motion. All right, but his motion was swiftly interrupted by the MP, Colonel Charles, and Charles' objection was upheld by the speaker. All right, so in essence, he declared that Mr. Golding's motion was inadmissible because it's now before the courts. And I guess they're referring to this matter that Andrew has taken the IC and others to the court. So that's what they're referring to. So that's why I started out with that part first. This left the opposition frustrated, and in a final act of defiance, opposition members walked out of the chamber in protest. Upon returning to the chamber, our speaker, so that's Holness, explained her absence. All right. And we're just going to go to some clips here that are available from Nationwide, and we'll see how best we can line that up for you. So let me just get my speaker ready here for you guys. And I believe we can take this information now because I want you to have a sense of, what is happening. So let's just take it back a little bit. All right, so again, Mr. Golding now, he was trying to introduce the motion, and then that was interrupted by Colonel Charles Jr. So let's listen here. All right, so that's the first clip there where MP Colonel Charles pretty much interrupted, Mr. Golding and, I guess asked the deputy speaker to kind of, move against that. I'm saying because there is, when I read from the Erskine May parliamentary practice, paragraph 2, page 333, matters awaiting judicial decisions that the motion relates to a matter that is now before the court, and if it is, because there is a matter now under judicial consideration, it ought not to be discussed as it is sub judice. At this time, I am now ruling that this motion will not be entertained. All right, so that was the deputy speaker there, Eroy Clark, is pretty much ruling against the motion. So here, the opposition, they were left, I guess, frustrated. So let's go to this clip here.
What we are not because you remember what this motion engages. We is simply a matter. We are not of a breach of the ministerial code of conduct. We are not by the Prime Minister. That is not a matter.
Member, there's
So I guess here the opposition, Mr. Golding, the leader of the opposition, he was explaining that the Prime Minister breached a code of conduct pretty much, and what the deputy speaker was saying is that based on I guess the code there for Parliament, once a matter is before the court, you should let it be, there shouldn't be any motion discussions around that matter. All right, so when the speaker, all right, Miss Holness, returned, I guess she decided to share, what happened, or I guess why she was absent. All right, let's go to that one.
A signed copy of the motion came to me at the desk when Member Caldwell came to the desk during the sitting of the Parliament. And I just came out for a moment a while ago and I note the opposition walking out. I was coming back to tell them I'd gone out because I was just completing my review so that they could go ahead and debate if they so choose. However, even though they heard as much, they continued to walk out.
All right, so here there, like what I'm getting from Juliet here is that, hey, if they wanted to debate the motion, then they can decide if they want to do that. All right. And here now the government MP says the PNP will seek power at any cost, even the integrity of the parliament. I guess even at the integrity of the parliament.
But what will happen is that they will use it as a tool to attempt to cause persons looking on to think that there is an effort to block the motion. And that is what is unfortunate, the continuous effort to manipulate the minds of Jamaican people. And what I find disgusting is the discussions around integrity by persons who are willing to break down the integrity of this court proceeding for their own pursuit of power. In the pursuit of power, they're willing to breach, destroy, and cast away the rules, the standing orders, the law, anything that has to be done. Tear down people, mash up the country's reputation, all because of the pursuit of power.
All right, so pretty much in essence, what I'm getting here is that the opposition, they're saying that the government are, they are blocking their motion. But what the government is saying is that the opposition, they're playing this game to let people believe that they did block the motion when that wasn't the case. They're pretty much following whatever. And as you heard from Juliet, like she was saying, if they wanted to debate whatever, they could. But by the time she got back, they were already walking out, even though they heard the conversation. And I guess what she was saying is that this motion was not sent in, I guess, as how they would expect motions to be sent in. So, and still they were able, I guess, to get it printed, I believe. I don't remember what she said there. But we're going to try and get to Mr. Mark Golding, because he went outside and there is definitely something there for us to hear from Mr. Golding. So we're going to go and hear from Mr. Golding. Let me just bring that up for you guys so you can hear. And let me see if I'm gonna get it here. All right, let's go.
A no confidence motion in the House of Representatives. I was prevented from doing so on what I regard to be a spurious basis, a basis that cannot hold water. The basis that was put forward was that the matters on which my motion was based are now sub judice. In other words, because the Prime Minister has apparently sought judicial review of certain matters arising from what the Integrity Commission has decided in relation to his matter. However, my motion is not dealing with the substance of that report, but is dealing with his own conduct as Prime Minister. And I wish to read the motion now so you can hear it. Whereas there is a ministerial code of conduct in place from 2002 that governs the conduct of members of the cabinet. And whereas the Prime Minister did not inform the people of Jamaica that he was being investigated by the Integrity Commission from as far back as August 2023 for illicit enrichment. And whereas the concealment of this information by the Prime Minister is a breach of the ministerial code of conduct that guided the Prime Minister in removing from office ministers serving in the cabinet over which he presided. And whereas the annual reports of the Integrity Commission for 22-23 and for 23-24 stated that several members of Parliament, initially 6 and then 8, were under investigation for illicit enrichment, but none had come forward to disclose that he or she was under investigation. And whereas the Integrity Commission's investigation report on the 17th September 2024, tabled in Parliament, named the Prime Minister as being under investigation for illicit enrichment. And whereas the Prime Minister, as Chairman of Cabinet, instructed members of Cabinet not to divulge the name of any member under investigation for illicit enrichment, contrary to the spirit of the Ministerial Code of Conduct. And whereas the actions of the Prime Minister have caused and continue to cause severe damage to the trust necessary for good order and respect for public office, be it resolved that this Honourable House condemns the Prime Minister for not maintaining ethical standards of transparency and openness in government. Secondly, censures the Prime Minister for his acts of covering up and concealment of the names, including his own, of those members of the Cabinet and or Parliament of which he was and may still be aware, but has kept them in positions of influence in the Cabinet with the effect of further undermining public trust in the institutions of government. And declares that the actions of the Prime Minister have severely undermined his credibility and trustworthiness, and that he no longer enjoys the confidence of this House. That was the motion that was to be put forward today and hopefully debated next week. We did not want it debated the same day that it was tabled. The Prime Minister is not here in Jamaica. That would not be right or proper. However, we were not allowed to proceed with the tabling of the motion because the Speaker herself had removed herself because the matter affected her husband, and the Deputy Speaker ruled that the motion was improperly brought in breach of the standing orders, relying on the sub judice rule, and so the motion will not go forward. And we think that that is an abuse of the rules of Parliament, and no confidence motions have a very high place in our constitutional arrangements. If a no confidence motion is passed in Parliament, the Governor General has to dissolve Parliament and call elections. So that is in section, I think, 64 of the Constitution, subsection 5. So for them to block the opposition from bringing a motion on the alleged basis that the matter is sub judice is really, in my view, a bad and sad day for our democracy. Again, it's an example of freedom of speech, freedom of association, our democratic principles.
All right, so there you have it, pretty much there from Mr. Mark Golding, leader of the opposition, People's National Party. All right, so I guess the big part is that they did not get the opportunity to table this motion in Parliament, right? And so, as I shared earlier, in the context of a no confidence motion or vote, is pretty much them, in essence saying that the Prime Minister is unfit, in terms of his duties there, in terms of the office that he is now operating in. All right, so I'll just go to this article here from the Jamaica Observer, but quickly in the chat. Okay, my apologies there, Mats Morgan. Thanks for letting me know. Jappy, welcome, Jappy. Happy to have you here. All right, welcome, guys. Please remember to hit the like button, the share button, and the subscription button. So, members of the opposition, People's National Party, walked out of the Parliament Tuesday afternoon after the government blocked a motion of no confidence which appeared to target Prime Minister Andrew Holness. And we know it's not appeared. It was targeting the Prime Minister. Golding's motion essentially declared that the Prime Minister had breached the Ministerial Code of Conduct and called for his censure. The opposition leader has previously called for Holness to resign over his uncertified statutory declarations and the decision by the Integrity Commission to ask the FID to further probe the Prime Minister's business dealings after it was unable to determine whether the head of government had engaged in illicit enrichment. So guys, you see where I said the problem is with that report from the Integrity Commission? I feel that it has caused a lot of issues because they had a role to play in the context of when they send that report, it should either be that they're certifying the declarations of the Prime Minister, or they're going to say, okay, you know, there is unexplained wealth here, so he should be charged for illicit enrichment. That was not done. They're still doing investigations. So it just brings me back to the question I asked earlier. What is the reason for sending this incomplete report to Parliament at this point? All right, so just to continue here in this article, Mr. Golding has also accused the Prime Minister of failing to inform Jamaicans that he was under an illicit enrichment probe, a matter Holness has threatened to sue members of the opposition over. The lawsuit hangs on when Holness was notified that he was under investigation. Golding began to introduce his motion by stating that the Prime Minister did not inform the people of Jamaica that he was being investigated by the Integrity Commission. And we talked about this part, but he was quickly shut down by the Deputy Speaker. All right, and we talked about, you know, Colonel Charles there already. And let's just pretty much go there. We talked about the code then, and pretty much, you know, the opposition. Golding then led a walkout of opposition members as Clark insisted that he would not be heard. All right, so government MPs applauded as they exited the chamber. But, you know, the big question, I understand what they're doing here in the context of bringing a no confidence motion, but would that motion be successful? That is the question. Whether it was tabled or not, you know, would that be successful? Would they get what they want? They have minority, and I believe they don't have a quorum based on their numbers. So, like, so for example, when the government walked out on them, they did something similar to what they did today in terms of going outside and getting the media. So they don't have quorum. So I doubt this would prevail, right? And I suspect that's why I guess the speaker was saying they could table it if they wanted to, right? And so again, that's another issue there in that context. So all these issues, though, well, I'm curious to see how these situations will translate into votes for the PNP and the JLP in the next, you know, general elections. I am really wanting to see what that will look like in that context. And what I really like too about the opposition is that they're allowing their voices to be heard. So, okay, if you're not going to listen to me in Parliament, we're going to go outside and we're going to get the media and we're going to tell the people of Jamaica what it is that we wanted to do. And so I appreciate that. So if Parliament is not giving them the voice, they are ensuring that they're able to share whatever it is that they wanted to share inside Parliament with the people. So they're on that in that context. So guys, would love to hear from you in the chat here before we wrap up things. You know, what are your views on the Prime Minister taking the Integrity Commission to court, along with two other persons there associated with the commission, and the opposition walking out? So would love to hear from you in the comment section there. And again, welcome one, welcome all if you're just tuning in. Happy to have you here. I'm just checking the chat here. Not seeing any new comments in the chat here. And I don't want to open the phone line this evening, guys. So I've decided not to take calls this evening. All right. And especially given the nature of what we're talking about. But would love to see if I can get some comments in the chat. That would be fantastic before we wrap things up here. Again, happy to have you guys here. And I know we have some silent listeners, silent supporters. So I'm just checking here for some comments. But let me just go back to my main page. All right. So I'm just checking to see if I have any further updates for you. And just to let you know too, if you're just tuning in, that Isaac Buchanan, all right, was confirmed as the PNP candidate for East Portland, all right? So just to share that information with you. That Isaac Buchanan will be the PNP representative in East Portland in the upcoming general election. So we'll definitely follow up on that. Just to get a sense of, what will happen there. So he's going to go up against Action and. So we'll definitely be doing just looking at some seats too, just to see, what we can say in terms of who we're expecting to win. So again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And I just want to say, when others do not have any confidence in you, you have to have that confidence in yourself. All right, remember in life, there are going to be highs and lows, ups and downs. And I guess that's a part of it, but the seasons, they change, right? So things will change. They don't always remain the same. So just keep hope. Whatever it is that is happening in your life, in your environment right now, just be hopeful. And remember, with Christ in the vessel, you can smile at the storm. All right, so it's love, all love, blessings and love, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for the likes, the subscriptions, the shares. So continue to like and subscribe. And of course, tell a friend to tell another friend about the Voices in Education as we continue to grow stronger together. And, most importantly, thank you so much for maintaining our safe space, our safe community. And remember, it's important that you turn on your post notification bell. So first, you must subscribe, then tap that bell, select all so that you do not miss any updates. Again, blessings and love, everyone. I'm just going to play some music and sign out. And I'll see you guys in the next live. Bye for now.